don't think I need to say this. I'm working 30 technicians. I'm trying to find out about, how I can cover my run. Oh, I was told never to call the office again.
Okay, folks, I think we're about ready to start, so why don't you grab seats? We'll figure out if we need to get more seats somewhere. There's one in the front row and maybe one in the second row. Is that correct, that there's one next to you? Okay. So we got one seat in the front row, one seat in the second row. How about the middle of the... No, okay. And then we got some stools back there we can deploy. All right. Great. So this is being streamed to the world, so if you want to tell your relatives in Nova Scotia that they can tune in, they can. They have to get out of bed or something, I don't know. I'll probably turn this down a little bit. It's a little hot. So pass this around among you. This thing will also pick up. So let me go adjust that a little bit. We'll test that microphone a bit. Grab a seat.
But at least it's not up. That's all I need.
Really deserve freedom.
No, no.
Yeah, that's for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Eric, am I waiting on you?
A little bit,
Okay.
Are we approaching the time?
We are. We're approaching.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Good.
And we're on our Prop E standards, we're not 4 minutes late, so that's good,
Love the dogs and all, but I think the people will take a little priority today. Oh, grab a seat. Yeah. All right.
Look at all the travel books. That's good. No, the travel books.
So we're testing the level on the mic for Eric, who is live streaming this event. How does that sound? Too loud?
Live streaming.
Those of you in the back, okay, you like it? Thumbs up. All right, thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight and celebrating Muni Is My Ride with us. We're really excited to see you here. And we are going to not kill the audience. So we have a small program. After the program, or after we do our little thing, we'll do a Q&A. So if you have some questions, you can throw them up here. And we also have some operators in the crowd who are in the book. So you can pitch questions to them as well. Let me introduce, what? Did we get a hand up? So this is Primo Rivera and Mike Gonzalez, David Banbury, Keith Ferris is the artist, and I'm Lea Smith, the writer. We have Brendan Bartholomew, who is an operator in the book. Gerald Cross is also an operator in the book. And am I missing anyone? We're waiting for, I'm hoping Bram Ben-Zekri comes. He's also in the book. So anyway, without further ado, we're all going to read a little excerpt from the book. If you have the book in your lap, we'll tell you the page number we're on so you can see the image that we are referring to. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to read 3 short excerpts from the interviews of women, since none of them could make it tonight. Can you hold that for a sec?
Yeah.
Thank you. You can tell I'm not an expert with the mic. It's okay. Okay, so the first one I'm going to read from is Stephanie Jackson. And she is on page 7, her portrait. Is that right? I believe so. And I'm reading from page 8. Training was scary, thinking I wasn't going to make it. The trainers had over 20 years in, were very direct, and made it clear that not all of us would make it. In my training group, there were hardly any whites, but after the recession, we started to see racial diversity. Back when I started, it was pretty male. When you graduate from training, it's very exciting. We're giving you the keys to the city, they tell you. Once you get out there on your own, though, it's a nightmare. At first, I would get lost, especially at night. In the dark, you can't see the streets or the street signs or read the directions they give you. So nowadays, they have the electronics, but before it was on paper. It took 5 years for you to earn your title. Before that, you're just a driver. When other operators started calling me an operator, that felt good, and I started seeing myself as a professional. So the next operator I'm going to read is Jeanette Cross. And Gerald's chuckling because Jeanette is his daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have a total Muni family. Gerald's parents were also operators.
Yes. Yes.
So you'll read more about that in the book. Okay, so she is on page 67. Jeanette says, one reason my longtime boyfriend, who also works for Muni, and I have lasted, is we understand about time off, about holidays, about not getting home as planned because you didn't get relieved. We have never had one holiday off together, so if it's Thanksgiving, I'm on my own cooking, and he might get home at 8 o'clock. He'll get to see people, but he won't be there for the holiday. But since my father and grandparents all work for Muni, holidays were always like that, with people filtering in at all hours of the day. So there's no sit down, really. Miss Cross is understandably proud of her career. I've been driving the 14 mission for over 24 years because I prefer the articulating coaches. Mission Street is a straight shot. We still get shoulder injuries because we're pulling in and out of stops, but there are basically only 3 turns from one end of the route to the other. Okay, we love the applause, but we're going to hold it off until we're all done, or we'll be here all night. So the last female operator I'm going to read from is Wendy Lee, and she is on page 155. Sorry for knocking your ears.
We used to.
155. Okay. And I have a little anecdote to tell about Wendy Lee. I decided to walk over the hill to give her her copy of the book. And she answered the door. And she said, "Would you like to wait a minute and meet my new baby?"
Oh, wow.
Of course. So she brings this beautiful 9-month-old baby down. And he's a twin. She's got twins, yeah. So since the time we interviewed Wendy Lee, she and her husband Roger had twins.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, really wonderful. Okay, so here we go. Wendy Lee. I'm the driver, and it's my bus, so I need to say something. And the passengers will help me. There was a passenger who was dancing on the bus, and I said, "Can you sit down? If you can't sit down, you'll need to get off the bus because it's not safe. There are other passengers." But he didn't listen. And I stopped my bus and walked to where he was near the rear door to talk to him, and he tried to fight with me. And 2 male passengers stood up and got between me and the man and got him off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The men could tell I was not strong enough to deal with this person, so they helped me. Here's another experience. On my first day, I was assigned the 19 Polk, and I didn't know the route. I told the passengers, "It's my first day, and I don't know where to go." So a woman told me where to make a left, to make a right, and before she got off, she asked another passenger to take over and help me.
Yes.
That's why I love this job. Okay, I'm going to hand it over.
That experience tonight coming here, I was nearly 10 days.
Excellent.
Did not know the 44.
All right, there you go. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand the mic to Keith Ferris, who is the artist who did all the art in this book.
Thank you all for coming. I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts from the meditations on the drawings. And you hold that for a second.
I can.
Would you like to just use the stand?
You want to try the stand?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's better, I guess.
So the first one is this one. It's on page 20. Meditations on page 21.
Here you want to try the stand?
I was interested in the mirror, the reflection of the front of the bus, just above the heads of the guys in the mid-bus stairwell. At times, I couldn't see them because other people's backpacks broke my field of vision. These guys looked like they really wanted to get off the bus. Right after work, everybody wants to go home. Very inward focused. I wanted to include the suggestion of how tightly crowded the bus was and roughed in the other passengers in pencil. I thought it was really cool how you had these three heads and how what could have been a fourth head was actually the mirror. So the last one I'm going to read is on page 72 and 73, this drawing here.
Oh, that's great. Love that one.
The point and counterpoint on this couple, especially in their clothes, that's not in the meditation, of these two was irresistible. I was considering the Chinese woman, fairly well-to-do, as a subject because of her fancy pink hat. How it sat on top of her presentation of everything else. But then the woman with the enormous faux leopard skin satchel boarded the bus and began rifling through the bag, and her elbow almost hit the Chinese lady, who shifted her gaze and glared. That's when I made my decision. I memorized her coats, black fuzzy material, buttons, her tiny patent leather purse, its silver lock, her simple slippers, how her yellow and orange striped socks matched her undergarment, that she didn't take a swipe at the other woman and didn't say anything impressed me.
Okay, David, you're up.
Oh, I am?
Yep.
You want a book?
You can just sit
Yes,
down.
please. Okay. Let me see, where am I in here? Because this is... There's Jeanette, there's Charles. Ah, there I am. I see my name at least.
That might be an operator. You can look in the. There you go.
Yeah, I'm
All
here.
right. Do you want to stand?
Oh.
There you go.
Well, for me, this was, okay. The interview was about a little over 3 years ago, before I left Presidio and went to Kirkland. And a year after that, I retired, after a long time. That's all I'll say. There are a few folks that I worked with here, David Hooper and Myron Fong, of course, Gerald Cross. There's probably a few other folks that I'll forget the names, and of course Primo. But for me, I think the main thing I think of as far as the book and what it shows, I was asked what happened to the beard. I found that to be interesting because I tried to. I didn't quite want to look like Gerald, but because I remember when there was no fuzz, and I shaved. But I just want to mention, and I'm going to look at the first part of this because it really talks about graduating from school, and I don't know if it's in here, but Curtis Green was a big influence as a first African American general manager of a major transit system. He was so down to earth with me in the 70s because I was this bratty kid that would come around headquarters talking about what I learned, what route I learned. And he used to say, "Are you minding your mama? How you doing in school?" He didn't want to hear the excitement of what I was learning as much as he wanted to make sure I stayed focused on staying in school and just being a good child or teenager. So, but it talks about after I graduated from high school, which was a great time. Junior high school and high school was when I really got into Muni. And in high school, I worked as an intern at Presidio. And after that, I worked some odd jobs. And then I became a station agent, which started my career, which was almost 4 decades. All told, it was over 4 decades. The bulk of my supervisory work has been for Central Control, which is the radio center, which was at West Portal. And the main thing for that I got out of everything that I've done is you mature, because the people that I was working with were from World War II, from Korean War, basically the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and then the 70s. And they were, as we all talk about, a different generation. And so I had to kind of come up to their level, and that really has been something throughout the years, is being at a higher level. But also I learned how to manage people as a people person. The fact that I know Gerald Cross, who helped train me as a dispatcher, but I also know Jeanette. The fact that I know Myron from back in the Stone Ages, and I've worked with him, and same thing with Primo. When I look at this, and I'm going to finish soon, but when I look at this, it tells a story, and I really enjoy the fact that it talks about different parts of my career, and I try not to talk about it as much because I'm humbled. But I think I've done my job when people introduce me to their family, and that's so important. And also when you see people after many years and they're happy to see you as a supervisor. That's my superintendent. So anyway, one other thing I want to mention here, it says the main thing with those I supervise is you're an adult. This is an adult job, and you need to take responsibility. That's what I was told. And to give you a brief idea, I was 22 when I became a supervisor. So I was one of the youngest supervisors. And so the people I was supervising were 10, 20, 30, Mojave Smith, 40-something years older. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yes, sorry I went on too long.
No, I love
no,
it.
no,
Yeah.
that's all right.
Wonderful. Mike, you're up.
Mind if I just sit down?
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Miguel or Mike Gonzalez. First off, I'd like to thank the city of San Francisco and SFMTA for their non-discriminatory policy, age discriminatory policy when it comes to hiring. Because
Mike, can you tell them what page you're on?
I'm on 182.
See, you know that.
Sorry. So anyway, for their non-discriminatory policy because at the tender age of almost 61, I became a bona fide Muni operator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was competing with people, kids 30 years old, 30 years younger than I was.
Yes.
So if he's the oldest one here, I'm probably the oldest operator. Or starting oldest operator. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Keith and Lea for putting the book together. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, I'll just summarize the last paragraph on my interview there. As I said, I was a rookie and pretty nervous driving the bus, as I am now probably. But anyway, I was driving the 12 Folsom, and I didn't want to break the mirrors on my bus because at 12 on the Folsom there was a lot of trees there, and I couldn't get really close to the curb. So it was New Year's Eve. I picked up a fair elderly woman, was very neatly dressed, and I stopped and opened the door, but I couldn't get close to the curb. So she was grumbling. Why didn't you get close to the curb? This and that. I said, sorry, the mirror. I don't want to break it. I want to make it past my probation. Mm-hmm. So I was very careful. So she got on the bus. She was grumbling. There was no seat for her also. So when she wanted to get off, she pulled the cord, and again, there were some trees on the thing, so I couldn't get close to it. So I stopped. I let her off. She was grumbling. New Year's Eve. She gets off on the steps, looked straight at me, and said, "Dickhead." I was so shocked. I looked at her and said, "Happy New Year," and closed the door, and I went on my way.
Yeah.
So that's the last page on my story.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Primo Rivera. Well, I'm not going to talk a lot about what is written in the book because you might not read it anymore when I read it.
Yeah.
But I'm on page 120. Okay, page 120. Actually, Mike already mentioned about Lea and Kate, and that is my first thing on my note to acknowledge this couple.
Yes.
For putting this book out, spending their time interviewing people. They really went out of their way. And, as Lea, to write all this interview and put it in the book makes a lot of difference. MTA give you a lot. Sometimes they give you acknowledgement. They give you some rewards, but this is the most rewarding, I guess, for every operator in the entire system. And I hope when people read this, the public or even from the management, they will change their attitude towards operator, and maybe the management will change the way they treat their operators. And they just, we have all kinds of experiences. We have supervisors here, we have operators here. But one thing I want to tell the people, they don't know that when they get into that bus, they put their life in the hands of the operator. So I wish they would understand that, as well as the management on how they treat, and I hope this will change. I am one of the lucky operators, I would say, fortunate, because with almost my 25 years at Muni, I didn't drive a lot. When I became a full-time, I heard the name Doris Lanier. He is my first superintendent. He put me in the office and make me a yard starter. But once in a while, I still go out to drive the bus and have a lot of experiences out there. Somebody told me, "Are you lucky? Aren't you lucky you're still alive?" When I was doing the hunter's point, which is kind of scary. And I believe a lot of operator here have some kinds of operator that are threatening. So I hope and I wish they will change their attitude towards the operator, towards the people that drives these buses. And that's why I really want to thank Lea for putting this, because people would know upon reading this book, Muni Is My Ride, they will read all the experiences of the operators, bad and good. So tonight, they deserve maybe more than just an applause. So let's give them a big round of applause. Keep that.
Yes.
Yeah. So also, I want to thank you for all coming here, and I hope you will help them to promote this book.
Yes.
So people would read it. Thank you very much.
So now is the wonderful Q&A. Would anyone like to ask a question of any of the operators? We also have a few operators in the crowd. Yes.
I remember David from years and years and years, and I was a retired operator myself. David, do you think the gap between MTA, the management, and the operators is as big as it's ever been?
I think there's, I want to say that I think there's a difference from when I grew up, because we,
Started in 77.
yeah, unfortunately, I have to put it the way that I kind of look at it. The Muni was one thing. The MTA is a different animal. And unfortunately, I do think there are certain things in terms of the division amongst managers and the operators and staff. I'll say and staff because, you have operators, you have supervisors, you have maintenance, you have all sorts of people involved in running this agency. And they're trying, but it's hard when you don't have the history. You have a history since 77. Myron since, I think, like 73. Gerald, I forgot how long. He's been here since, Yes, well, I didn't want to go there, But, it makes a difference. Like I said, when I grew up, Curtis Green was somebody I looked up to and someone who helped shape a lot of different parts of the Muni. And after him, things, they were trying to keep things somewhat together. They were hiring from within, but it makes a difference when you have people who don't know the history. I think that's the best way I can put it.
I kind of think the MTA does it on purpose. They isolate themselves for them.
Well, all transit agencies now.
Yeah. Another question? Uh-huh.
I would like to know, I think of the drivers as just people who are driving the bus, right? But I wanted to know, do they receive training for conflict management and things like that, or is that learned on the job?
So, who would like to field that question? Brendan?
I could do that.
Brendan is fairly new operator to the system.
Like almost 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Well, compared to David Banbury.
Yeah. Compared to me,
training,
4 years.
You want to come up?
Oh, sure, I can do that.
This guy, almost said it.
I'm sorry if this takes away from the beauty of the book.
No.
No, this is Q&A.
So,
Yeah.
so when you're in the training department, it's 2.5 months of your life, and it feels longer than that because it's like Muni boot camp. It's like when you're hired to enter the training department, they actually send you an email that says, we advise you to cancel any appointments you might have. So you're in Muni boot camp for 2.5 months, and it feels like a much longer chunk of your life. And it's the only job I've ever had where they basically train you on how not to lose your job. So to this question about conflict management, what you're learning in the training department is not so much, you're not like role playing a lot of conflicts or things like that, or not necessarily learning conflict resolution techniques, but you're learning the rule book and you're getting a really clear idea of what Muni expects from you. An example would be you're in a dispute with a passenger, do not get up out of that seat. Stay in the driver's seat, because the minute you stand up, half the people that are watching you do that are going to interpret that as an aggressive gesture. If a passenger assaults you, hit the panic button on your dashboard, summon help. Do not chase that passenger down the street, because the minute they're retreating, you're the aggressor and you're going to lose your job. One of the most wise things I heard when I joined, when I'd been on the job maybe a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, this wonderful operator named Harry Boyle at Kirkland Division. The dude is a bodybuilder when he's not driving the bus. Huge muscles. He looks like somebody that you would not mess with. He looks like somebody who could beat the crap out of you as an afterthought. And so we were talking about, what happens when there's somebody on the bus that is causing enough of a disruption that you need to get rid of them. And Harry Boyle said to me, I put it to them like this. I tell them, I can't decide things. I can't tell you what to do. I can't decide for you what to do. I can't tell you to get off this bus, but I can tell you that I can't keep moving the bus unless you do things the way I need you to. And it's like, wow, it's like such a gentle, diplomatic, wise approach from a guy who doesn't necessarily need to be that way. So I hope that kind of addresses that.
It's a beautiful answer.
Thank you.
I think David.
No, Primo. Yeah.
Not with this, but Keith, your drawings are of people who are on the bus, and that interaction that you had with them. How did that make you feel?
What?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll answer that really quickly. So he didn't have any interactions with the passengers.
So they didn't know he was
No.
drawing.
No.
So Keith has an amazing visual memory.
Yeah.
So almost all the drawings of passengers in that book are from memory. He would be on the bus. He would decide, I have to have this image. And he would commit it to memory. Then he'd come home. This is in the introduction. And he'd jot down some notes and do a quick sketch. And from those notes and the quick sketch, he would make the drawing.
Wow.
So one of his greatest fears was that some passenger is going to come and say, that's me, and I didn't give you permission.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
Primo,
Primo, you had something
let me
to
show
say?
you one which I was afraid that would happen with.
You
I
had
can
something to
find
say.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll
It's
let
back here somewhere.
I know which one you mean.
It's the guy
Yeah.
in the.
Oh, it isn't the woman with the
No, it's the guy with the owl. This guy.
with the Batman.
This guy.
What page is that?
This is page 170.
170.
Yeah. So I saw this guy on the 44, and I've never seen him since, and I ride the 44 all the time. All the time. And I have never seen a shirt like that, okay? It's very impressive. The pattern with the Batman logo, which didn't look like a homemade job. I don't know where he got it, you know?
Wow.
Anyway, so I was afraid this guy was going to, get in touch with me and say, "Hey, I didn't agree to this."
Primo
Here we had
Primo
you had something to say?
Yeah.
In addition, answer to your question about do we get the training? Anybody here who would say, we don't get the training for that. You are on your own. And he's been here like how long ago? And he said, that's right. We don't get the training. You're on your own, so you have to deal. The only training that the only thing that they will tell you is don't engage with them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you will read on my interview, even part of writing an accident report is not included in the training. Is it right? And when you explain about the accident that happened to you, the more you explain it, the more you will get in trouble. When it gets to the attorney's office, you're guilty. You're at fault. I don't know if people will agree with that who works with us. Oh yeah, I said.
I'll just say, as a superintendent, the reports that I used to review, details are important, but they need to be accurate. And sometimes it's not easy. We have a lot of people who are English as a second language. You have a lot of people who don't see the same thing as the video shows, let's say. So yeah, that's something, it makes a difference. But, you know, as Primo said, there's a lot of things you don't get. And as Mr. Bartholomew said, they will teach you as much as they can how not to lose your job. You know, there are rules that kind of point you in that direction, so you have to be very conscious of that. Huh?
Inattention to duty.
Yeah.
Another question? Mm-hmm.
Last question. I take issue. I was with Muni for 36 years.
Oh, there's
I take
Larry.
issue that there was no training. And I remember when we first started in classes, we did role play. And one of the role plays was one of my classmates was the driver, and I was the irate passenger. And I came up and I was complaining about everything.
Oh, yes.
I was complaining about this, and what he said was, "I'm sorry, sir." And when I was complaining again, he said, "I'm sorry, sir." And I learned that until I was out. I was like totally exhausted and couldn't say anything anymore. And in my years of driving for Muni, that was my thing. They could complain about the weather. They can complain about who's in office. And I would just say, "I'm sorry." And until they got exhausted and sat down.
Yes.
Okay, another question? Yes.
There's lots and lots of different Muni drivers, and I'm wondering, how did this selection, how did these people become chosen, and did you approach others who didn't want to be included, or how did you choose who would be in the book?
So the question is, how were the operators chosen? So the operators weren't really chosen. They kind of organically presented themselves. So in the beginning, it was really hard to recruit drivers. We were just doing cold calls. So I would get on a bus, I would notice the operator and think, oh, maybe they would be receptive. And then I would approach them and ask them to do it. Luckily, and I was hoping he would be here tonight, Bram Ben-Zekri was one of the first that I approached. And he was like, yeah, that would be fun. And he was just wonderful. So that was like a really good start. But after that, it got really difficult. Although, if we look at, from a business point of view, we actually had a really good return rate. And I think it was because we sort of selectively identified people that we thought might be receptive.
Yeah, after we got a couple, the word passed out that, it got around that.
A little bit. So some of it was word of mouth. And actually, we have someone here, David Gunter, who works for Muni, and he showed, we had a little binder that had some pictures in it. And another guy, Melvin Clark, agreed to sit for a portrait. And it's this beautiful portrait that is not in the book because he didn't want to be in the book. So we're not reporters. And we told all of the operators that they would be able to look at their portrait. And if they didn't like it or didn't approve of it, it would not go in the book. And that they would be able to read their interview and ask for any changes to the interview. So we really wanted to respect them and as much as possible kind of get out of the way. So David kind of spread the word. And Melvin Clark's, he introduced us to Melvin Clark. And I got to say, Melvin Clark got our foot in the door with a lot of operators. Because they would go through the binder and they would say, oh, Melvin.
Yeah.
And somehow that kind of connected them to us and made us legitimate. So legitimacy was also very key. We interviewed, so through word of mouth, I was an ESL instructor. An instructor said, oh, I have a student and her husband is a Muni operator. That's Alex Rodriguez. And he said, hey, I have this friend. So his friend had a real nose for celebrity, and he would not mind if I said that. And that's Mike Delia,
Yes.
who we have lost
Yeah,
to cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died in August. So Mike Delia was wonderful. So we interviewed him, and when we interviewed him, he said, "Hey, I have this friend, and he really wants to be in the book." I'm like, "Yeah, bring him on." So the guy came that day that we were interviewing Mike, and then he kind of quizzed us, and he said, "You're not from New York?" And we're like, "No." And then he went, "Oh, see you later." So I guess we just weren't like famous enough or something, or I don't know what his fantasy was, but he said no, he didn't want to be in the book. And then I'll tell you one more anecdote, which is really a lot of fun. So I was seeing a physical therapist. We're chatting. "What are you doing?" "Working on this book." "I have another patient. He really loves Muni, and he loves this one particular operator. Do you want to talk to him?" "Yeah, sure." That guy's name is Mark Mackler. He's in the acknowledgments. He introduces me to Jeanette Cross, who's in the book. I call her up. "Yeah, I'm getting ready for retirement. Yeah, I can take some risks. Yeah, I'll be in the book." Because when you read hers, there are people who have read hers, and they're like, "Wasn't she afraid of being fired?" Because she does no holds barred.
No, that's true.
So Jeanette says, "Do you want to interview my dad? Because he works for Muni too." We're like, "Yeah, great, 2 for 1. And then she said, "How about my boyfriend? He's a cable car driver."
Yeah.
Like, wow, jackpot. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of how it accumulated. And I guess I do want to say one other thing. What was really hard is getting diversity. So women are in the minority. So finding women operators who would agree to do it was, it was harder to find them on the streets. And then getting, we really wanted some mechanics. And the mechanics were like, they were just kind of allergic to, they really want to be behind the scenes, or at least the ones that we had contact with. So that was difficult. Does that answer your question? Long answer, yeah. Another question, yes?
So, corollary to that question is what motivated you to want to do this book?
What motivated us to do the book? So it was an evolution. So Keith started out, and this is in the introduction. So Keith is an artist. He saw an image on a bus of a passenger, and he said, "I have to have it." Can you find that one?
Sure.
The guy in the salmon suit. And a lot of people would think, "Oh, very innocuous," but to this artist's brain, it was like, "I love it," and he wanted to do it. So anyway, he did that.
First guy.
Yeah, that's on page
48.
Page 48. So he did the drawing, and then he put it in a drawer. And then about 6 months later, he saw another passenger, and then he did the same thing. He's an oil painter. He paints on canvas. He's not an illustrator. So it was sort of like just this kind of side thing, right? So after about 4 or 5 years, he had 10. And he said, "I want to make a book." And I said, "Honey, you need more than 10.
No, I didn't say I want to make a book. We sort of talked about it turning into a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you suggested we get some operators.
Because I thought if we had operators, I could interview them.
Tried to do, what I wanted to do with the drawings I had about 25, I guess, 26 drawings
10.
at the end. Yeah, no, I mean at the end. Okay. I wanted to have a show. I even approached somebody at the Muni offices about putting them up in the administration office at Muni, and they weren't interested. They just weren't interested. Okay, so I came back home, and then we had more discussion about what was going to go on with the drawings.
Okay, I have to make a correction because this is publicly streaming. So Keith went to one of the buildings, we don't know which one, and he talked to the first person that he met. So it was probably like a clerk. And I think the clerk just basically said, "We're not a museum, we're not a gallery, no, we don't do shows." So we have to be fair to Muni. So anyway, the motivation was in the beginning to showcase this artist. And I did have an underlying, like, something that's really dear to my heart from the time I was 7, is I just love Muni operators because they have carried me all over the city my entire life. And so I saw it as an opportunity, like, hey, we could interview these guys. And in the introduction, I do say it was a little crushing to find out how difficult their jobs were, because I had kind of this, you know, men in uniform type of, you know, or operator, you know, they're just not human or something. But then I interview them and I find, oh my God, like, they don't get bathroom breaks. Didn't think about that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So are you going to place it at the cable car barn where they have the museum and they sell stuff?
If I can twist someone's arm. So there's a strange thing at the Cable Car Museum. SF MTA, the guy who runs that shop has to agree that nothing in his shop can say Muni. Yeah. Yeah. Not sure.
Concession thing.
It's politics and concession, and yeah, I don't know the deep story. So,
It would be a great place to
yeah, but it is at the Market Street Railway Museum. It is here at Bird and Beckett. It's at Green Apple Books. It's at Fabulosa on Castro Street.
Where you buy your Clipper card at the Ferry building.
They're not interested.
Okay.
But there is a bookstore there, Book Passages, and we've solicited them.
Oh, yeah,
So yeah, just go to those places that you think it should be and ask if they have it. Like, yeah, promote our book.
Yeah. Public libraries.
Yeah.
Has the library placed an order for 100 copies, I hope?
So Nicole, stand up.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Nicole.
Nicole is a librarian, and she actually got us an in to the Main because.
Cool. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. So when I approached her to do a little thing at our local branch, she said, looking at the book, "This is too good. It has to be at the Main." So the Main, yeah, it'll be pushed out. So the great thing about the library is they already ordered 30 copies, and there are already holds, which feels really good.
Great.
And we will be doing an operator on the stage thing in February 25th, which is a Sunday at 2 o'clock at the Craic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked on the cable cars also, and I was always kind of like the foreign legion of the Muni. And we had 2 operators on the cable car, the conductors that wore Southern Pacific conductors uniforms.
Richard Morley.
Richard Morley and Michael Max.
Michael Max, yes.
And they actually got away with it for years because it looked good. Because the uniforms we wore on the cable cars were completely non-functional for the job. But those guys would stand out. And people thought that we all should have those uniforms.
Yeah.
And they did it for years.
Yeah.
And the management knew and they left them alone because it was good PR.
Yeah. Yeah. Question, yes.
I just wonder if there's an agreed upon favorite route or vehicle, or if there are like personal preferences that maybe.
Yes, there is. Number 3, Jackson.
David. David? David, maybe you should come up so everyone can hear you.
Nobody writes there.
Yeah. Huh?
You're very soft-spoken.
Depends on what division you're in, which determines whether you like something or not.
Yeah.
There are operators who've been here for 30 years or whatever the case may be, maybe 10 years, maybe 5, maybe 7. Those individuals, if they like their division, they'll stay there. A particular line, it can be just your neighborhood line. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's anything about it, it just means there's lines that particular area.
And-
When you're talking about light rails or cable car guys, never leave there. Usually when they go to cable car, they go there to die.
Yes.
My favorite was the 3 Jackson. It went through Pacific Heights and there was no passengers.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Primo?
Well, my favorite line is 41 line when I was working at Potrero.
41 years.
Because you know why? 41 Union, They're all working people.
Yes.
They're well disciplined, and in the morning they all smell good before they go to work. So that's my favorite line.
I think getting back to what was just said about divisions, I mean, I talked to a lot of operators over the years, and some of it depends on their seniority, because they're in their family, and then their preference may change depending on what they're driving, because people most of the operators start out on buses or trolley buses, then they can move to rail if their seniority allows, then they can move to cable cars, depending on their seniority. And as the gentleman said, a lot of people, once they get to cable cars, that's it. They'll stay there for a long time, But also streetcars, same thing, because the people that I grew up with, a lot of them were on streetcars and then they went to cable cars. Some of them were at Potrero when Gerald and I were there, and then they ended up at cable cars and they retired from cable cars. So it does depend on a lot of other factors. But nowadays, a lot of operators are looking at hours, their days off, and how it relates to their family. And the money. Yeah, oh yeah. Because a lot of people that I know are dealing with young kids or now teenagers, as their career goes, they have to be there. And it also depends, male or female, because the moms are always worried about their kids, and the dads too, but it depends on that family structure too, because that makes a big difference in terms of how you work.
Any other questions?
I got one.
One more, okay.
Primo mentioned that he spent a lot of time working as a yard starter, and I think for those of us who don't work at Muni, yard starter might be a mysterious term, so I wonder if maybe Primo could clarify what a yard starter is and does.
And a yard parker.
Well, yard starter is different from yard parker. As a yard parker, you only park the bus when the operators pull into the garage. But yard starter, you got a lot of responsibility. You are responsible for the bus to get out on time. In my division that I work, I always see to it that the bus will get out on time. And that's a big responsibility, because if they are late, it's a big trouble. And we got some supervisor here, they know that. So yard starter is not just like they think it's an easy job for an operator. Well, maybe some operators, they take it for granted, but just like for me, I have to let that bus out on time. And the operator is late, not on me. Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to add something, that the yard starter, at least in the green division, which is where the underground is, they also do troubleshooting in the morning. So if the doors open properly, if the PA system is working, when you used to have cars coupling up to each other, they would couple the cars up to each other. And you'd have to be there early in the morning, like 4 in the morning, before Muni actually started, to make sure that whatever is going out wasn't going to be a problem when the day started.
Okay. My shift start early at 3 a.m. So I have to be there, make sure all the buses are in good condition. You have to have a good relationship with the shop, with the mechanics, because, well, if one bus in front is broke, then the rest of the bus behind it can go out. So you got to know all this, so like what I said, it's a big responsibility, taking all this bus out on the street as a yard starter. Sometimes you call it yard starter only, but it's a big job, and if you take it to your heart, you really want all these buses, to be out there. Otherwise, even the passengers will be late. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, maybe one more question if there is one, because we've held your attention for quite some time, and I saw David looking at his watch. So books are for sale, and you can come up and get a book and bring it to the cash register. If you'd like it signed, autographed, we will stay up here and sign books. And thank you so much for coming. We're just really pleased to see you all here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful that you've done the book. Why don't I take a bunch up front as well?
Okay.
And then we can
You
keep
wanna
some
take the
here.
whole box?
Yeah, I'll leave some up here too. So yeah, feel free to grab a book at either end and either pay for it and then get it signed, or get it signed and then pay for it. I think I can trust you all on that count. And there is a deal that
Thank you,
if
gentlemen.
you show me your
You're
clipper
welcome.
card,
Thank
you
you.
pay cash.
Thank you.
Gotta pay cash, and you gotta actually ride the buses.
And I tell everyone,
ironic.
see, I don't
What are you?
drive. I've never had a driver's license.
Sure.
So thank you, gentlemen.
Who do you want it to?
Portola.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And thank you. And so I tell everybody I take my BMW. Bart, Muni, walk.
Yeah, I
You heard that?
yeah,
You heard
yeah.
that?
Is it
Figured you guys would
PATSY?
probably heard that. PATSY. But it's true. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
my
Gentlemen, I don't remember what page you are all on, so thank you kindly, and thank you for your stories and your service.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I'm a
no,
city
I.
worker too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Since
Well, I'm
1993.
third generation. I mean, second generation.
That was awesome. Thank you for coming all the way from the East Bay.
You guys are celebrities.
I'm humble, you know, because this,
I came a little late, so I don't know if he got into it. But what people don't know is that Muni works on overtime. And so not everybody makes the same amount of money. And it's all on seniority and desire. People are looking for the money, but you can't get to it until you have enough seniority to get there.
There you
Thank
go.
you for doing that.
You're welcome.
I used to ride. Now I rode the original 44.
Oh, you did?
Because we lived in Diamond Heights, and So this area here, I used to around the corner.
Yeah.
If I missed the bus, I'd have to walk all the way up because my mom was up by Safeway. Coming down was fine.
That's a big walk.
Coming down was fine, but coming up, I used to have to go up the hill.
It's a schlep.
Yeah.
It's a schlep.
Thank you so much.
I love hearing your stories.
Yeah.
I love reading this book. And I always read it when I'm on Muni too.
Oh, that's
So
good.
I'm always like, who's going to recognize that I'm holding this book?
I'm going to be doing that too.
How was the book launch, at the...
McGrosky
I need autograph from the creators too.
Good to hear you.
So it's funny. I've met you before, but not through the you all have met you before in the library, but a long time ago. Absolutely. But I didn't put you two together. All this time, Lea, I've known your husband like from the library over the years. I never realized you two were married.
Well, there you go. You finally met him.
That's why when I came in, I recognized you right away, and I was like, oh. And then I realized later, oh, this is great. All right.
Really? Yeah.
So really, congratulations. Really, congratulations. It's amazing how this came together. It's so good. So good.
Suzanne?
These are wonderful.
They're so good, right?
They're really good,
Yes.
yeah. These are really wonderful.
Hi, how
Nicole?
are you?
Nicole. N-I-C-O-L-E.
That's right.
Picture.
That's right.
Where you sign it.
M-A-R-L-O?
I love this bookstore too.
Okay, Marlo, okay.
I love it.
Thank you, Alan. All right. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Brown. Hey, how you doing?
That's great. That's great.
Saw you guys were coming.
Good to see you here.
Thanks so much for rocking.
Fabuloso. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations. I'll see you at the library. Definitely. This is great.
Yeah, but I still recognize
Very
you.
excited.
We made him one of these as a giveaway.
Not your face.
The old fast
Yes, yeah, that's what
Thank you.
Ponytail, right? Ponytail.
Do you want to
No, it's already
Come on, not in the book.
Oh!
I should have been in the book.
There needs to be a volume 2. A volume 2.
Every time the bus comes by.
great.
It's like the, I feel like it's
You remember me? It's my rookie year there at
Okay.
Kirkland.
Can you sign this?
Yeah.
This is tomorrow.
My rookie year. I don't remember me as a. Yeah, you probably do. I mean, I remember you. You wrote the reports on my accident. I hit a 43 bus there.
Well,
I remember some things.
Yeah, you can bring
That's okay.
We can say hello to him.
Yeah, I think it's.
Okay. All right. Thank you for being here.
What's your name?
Wonderful.
Larry.
To Larry?
That's enough, yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
I know my name. It's more important to get your name.
Yeah, sure.
And if you guys could sign them, that would be fabulous.
Okay.
I'm so happy to get in live with this guy.
Say to
Linda and Joe,
Okay.
and then the other one to Ben.
Ben. Okay.
But I'm on the board for the office.
Okay.
Our house.
Okay.
We could make that happen.
Wonderful.
So,
Actually,
you know, big Celsius side of the.
you got 36 years. You got 6 months.
Larry, there you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. These are great.
We have to educate the MEA folks on what
You recognize any of those people?
Yeah. But I was trained by Gerald Cross's father, Herb.
Oh, wonderful.
Cross family.
Did you say hi to Gerald?
I guess you found out that the Cross family is like
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
Yeah, there's a
The whole family.
And then this one is to Ben. Yeah, make sure you say hi to Gerald.
Benjamin.
Okay.
Well, maybe. Yeah, but that's another.
Always, right?
Started almost 61.
To Larry?
Larry.
Okay.
And I want to be in the next edition.
All right.
I mean, I've got some great stories.
Okay. Yeah, I signed it. You should write your name down somewhere. Yeah, to Benjamin. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay, that's great.
You said you did something. Did you sign it?
I just have one question of the drivers. Why?
Yeah, on the plate page. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You can, you said you wanted to be in the next one. I don't know if there'll be a next one, but you can leave a note.
Oh, you mean in school?
Yeah.
Oh, not in music.
So we'll know how to contact you.
I'm buying you that.
I saw
Okay.
Craic not too long ago. Of course, it was a Primo
Would you like it
and a Buddha.
addressed to someone?
I remember when a Buddha.
Or just the signature?